Okay, so I think instead of going for that nature build that we had last time, let's just do regular sword Death Knight and fight through. So we want to go back here. We're getting up to rank 5, which we've done before. Number of lead enemies spawning simultaneously by 1. House of Lords, number of lords avoid that spawn in a match by 1, increase their health by 5%. Elite enemies have more health. Elite enemies spawn more frequently, and Pillar of Protection. Let's see. Sure. I'm probably just going to have all of these on. It'll give me tons of materials. We need more gold. We also need like topaz, but we haven't found that. Or that's not present on this map, I think is the real answer. Oh, that's why everything's quiet. Oh, no, I know. I just turned my headphones down. I was like, why is everything whisper quiet? Do I have to worry about this? And the answer is, not at the moment. Anyway, so goal for this time, I think maybe a bit more of a direct damage build. I think I will go for some more experience gain too, if I can. But yeah, do we want to just go hard on the Shadow Grasp? Because currently we've got Obliterate, which is Doom and Finesse, which... Finesse, multicast chance by 2% for 6 seconds. So maybe, yeah. Yes, let's go for kind of a shadow build. At some point, I'd love to see more like crossover abilities. But I don't know how viable those are. I don't know. Ooh, things that specifically encourage you to mix and match like poison and fire. Tags for some reason or another. Let's see, do we want any of these? No. I guess I could have actually start banishing some of these, but I think I'm going to save that for once we hit the passives. Probably. Okay. Multicast for Shadow Grasp, damage for Shadow Grasp. Well, let's just go for the multicast. And yeah, we can go kind of hard. We've got baseline Doom. Let's go for the movement speed. Because ideally, we also want to stack that up to at least, like... I'm going to say 60%. If we can. Chromatic Bolt. Interesting. It's just everything. I mean, don't mind if I do, right? So these are the pillars that give everybody a damage resistance. I think I'm just gonna probably keep putting points into crit. Movement speed is nice and we do need it, but we won't need it at least until some of the bosses start showing up, and we'll see. There it goes. Let's see. Go for block power, go for block power. I want that experience gain, but I'm not gonna squander it. Acid Rain, no. Death Vortex. And now we've kind of got a build. We also don't seem to have the weird... all of your attacks apply bleed is kind of tempting. But no, let's go for that 30% movement speed, seeing as we're up against Alexi right now. Okay, crit chance of your Ebon Knights. It's tempting, but like we haven't gotten a whole lot of abilities that really work. More damage, damage modifier of the lasting skill. So sure, let's go with that. Okay, let's see. Okay, multicast chance. Let's go for some survivability. Last time we were kind of getting to the... We were getting to the point where things were getting a little risky. And so some proper survivability, like block and... Let's see. Ooh. Cast frequency? No, let's go for a little bit of bleed. Let's see, Leviathan. For that. I guess... Oh, you know what? I should probably banish Leviathan so it doesn't show up. Even if it does have some benefits. All of your attacks may apply poison, area modifier, shadow grasp. Let's just keep stacking a bunch of perks. And yeah, we might want to look into extra soul gain too. All your attacks apply burn. Sure. Even if I'm not going for a status build, being able to stack a multitude of status effects is still kind of useful. All of your attacks apply Doom. Otherwise, it could go heckin' fast. We already applied Doom to begin with, so sure. Let's just go blisteringly quickly. Also, I should never stop moving. Let's see. Lethality, absolutely. Let's get that crit chance up. Don't walk too much through the poison puddles. Oh, my max HP is just at 110 to begin with. Ooh. And I've got four rays now. All your attacks apply slow? Sure. I should check what slow specifically does. Does it reduce their attack rate, or is it just their movement speed? Ideally, not even attack rate. It's, let's see, AoE for the void. Sure. What I would want is to reduce their ability activation speed more than anything else. Okay, so what is slow? No, it's just movement speed. Let's re-roll. I could probably do better than that. Whenever you cast Shadow, trigger a fire type. It's a very low chance. But I think I'm going to snag it anyway, just because it'll trigger the bolts. Because all of my abilities do Shadow to begin with, really. Okay, damage you apply for every Doom. Yeah, let's just go hard on Doom stacking if it lets me. I think the one problem with only offering three options per level up is it is a little difficult to really hit that feeling of this is my build, especially with a particularly full pool. See, crits now apply poison. Yeah, I mean, what else was I going to do? None of those other options were exciting, and I'm out of rerolls. I think I'm more of a fan of reroll and banish systems where you get them on a per level up. Maybe not. No, I'm doing fine. Let's just bop over here, grab this. Yeah, I don't think slow intensity really helps me too much. Let's go for crit chance. Let's also go figure out, there's the pedestal. Summon my buds. Might as well get them in the mix. Yeah, I'm fast enough that I can kind of dodge. Let's see, bigger AoE. Nah, multicast power. Yeah, I think we do an okay amount of damage. I think the problem with that I'm running into to some degree is that I haven't actually really sat down to focus on developing any good meta builds. Neither good meta builds, nor even really maxing out a whole lot of meta progression. I maxed out the starting meta progression, but I need to level up a number of my characters. Let's see. Damage for the Shadow Grasp is not a bad idea, but I think I'm going to go for Magnetic. Because I'm most assuredly leveling up faster than the last time. I mean, go figure. We've already got a 70% increase in experience. Multicast of everything. Swing or damage of every Doom that I apply. You know what? I'm going to keep stacking that. I want to see if I can Doom stack bosses into Oblivion. Unfortunately, it seems like we're not doing much for Doom, period. That he's only got a smidge on him. Let's see. Area modifier of obliterate or increase the burn. I think I'll keep going for obliterate for the time being. It may be foolhardy. Oh, I don't know. I guess we've actually done a decent amount of doom to him. You know what? I think I'm going to just skip active skills for now on. I think at this point I should just be going for passives. Okay. I'd stacked a bunch of doom on him, but let it expire. I'm assuming it does damage. Okay, all of your attacks now apply doom. Oh, so I just didn't have that prior. So now we can increase our doom stack damage, presumably. Yeah, look at that. We're stacking so much more than we were. Yeah, let's see what happens when I just have near endless doom. I should probably also slap these down so I can actually, or so my enemies don't keep getting stronger and more durable. Oop. Let's see, damage modifier of that. Crits do more damage. Unfortunately, once again with the whole doom thing, or status effects and crit, I don't think they synergize. But we can potentially get the when you crit apply doom perk, which is good. And feeds into the build a little bit. Let's see. Crit strike to enemies with full health. Sure. I don't know why. I was just like mentally transported back to like, I think it was 2021. Back when Shell and I were still subbed to streaming services. But we were randomly just like, hey, what if we watch like a bunch of Power Rangers? And I think we watched like 5 or 6 different first episodes of different Power Rangers series. We didn't get too far into it. I think it was kind of like, yeah, that was fun. And then we just never did it again. But some amount of me is just like, man, I should have actually had some follow through there. Let's see. Attacks apply more burn, more damage, or cast frequency. Let's just go for cast frequency. The more burn is nice, but I'm not really building around the idea of it. Yeah, I think at the time I very much was kind of like, I wonder if I should do some kind of crazy thing where I just like watch through every Power Rangers series and then like comment on them. Clearly I need to like diversify. I think I describe it. I don't know. I guess I would almost call it like midlife crisis syndrome. You've probably noticed all the various YouTubers like quitting over the last couple of years, and again, every time this comes up, it's like not going to be me. But some amount to me is just like, but I do want to screw around with weird things. I think part of it is I've been feeling particularly... Attacks apply more doom or more damage against faraway enemies. Both of these are good. If I want to go for my doom stacking, I have to go for this. So I think that's going to be the plan. But I've been feeling kind of in the mercy of the algorithm recently. In February, and I guess kind of the beginning of March, one of my personal projects was like, yeah, I'm going to start doing interviews with developers because I think that would be cool, right? And I have no idea like how much of it is just like people weren't interested or it wasn't very interesting in, you know, content-wise or what. I'm just going to banish this. I'm just not using it. That was worth it. And like at some point I should probably try and get some feedback on it one way or another. There it is. But it was one of those where like each and every one of them did worse than the last. And I'm like, these are like very interesting and I worked hard on this, but YouTube was just like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. This is like 1% of the people that saw this video go by clicked on it. Let's see. Attacks may now apply bleed. Yeah, I guess I'll just snag that. I'll have to look at how some of these status effects even work, because it does feel like some of them operate differently from others. Like, a number of my status effects are just clear, and I'm not sure why. Let's see. Ooh. My head has decided to betray me here. Let's see. Burn, apply slow. That, or more damage on Doom. More damage on Doom. I want to just hit something and then have it immediately die from Doom. Or something, maybe. But yeah, it's just kind of that, like... I want to say sinking feeling of, like, this is what I am typecast to do now, and it's hard to escape that. And some amount of me is just... I think intrinsically insulted by that. It was like, no, I'm a multi-talented person. Ooh. For every swing skill you have, increases the modifiers... Oh. For each skill you have of the type swing, increases the modifiers of your skills without swing. Crit chance. Huh. I mean, I'll pick it up. Maybe that's not as good as I thought it was going to be. I think it's still interestingly synergistic. I just don't know how much you can do with it. I should remember to pick these up. Let's see. Crit chance against nearby enemies. I think I'm just going to go for the base crit chance more than I should not have taken my hand off the keyboard for a second. The temperatures around here jumped up 40 degrees in 2 days, and so my eyes hurt in a, like, I can feel my sinus pressure just being like, no. So if I come off as a little erratic and rambly, that's probably why, maybe. We're bringing back peak Wanderbot theory. Shout out if you remember that. Specifically was, I used to make videos on Wizard of Legend. I should probably do another video on it at some point. But you definitely could tell, like... Dang, these are choices. You definitely could kind of tell when I was feeling good versus not, and that it mattered dramatically for the game I was playing. Wizard of Legend is not exactly the kind of game that you go into half-heartedly. It's not a casual romp. Like with this one, for the most part, there's not much of a skill cap. It's mostly just make the right decisions and don't stand in the big red circles. The only immediate problem is that there's a lot of big red circles. And so I guess I need a little bit more movement speed to keep me alive. Probably. Because I've only killed 4 Void Lords. Oh, we are very far away from being able to do well here, and that's actually worrying. However, we are considerably higher level than we were the last run, so who knows, maybe I'll pull it off, or we get completely wrecked. At least I'm back up to 77 HP. What I'll probably try and look into is... let's see. Getting a little bit more survivability. I think the big one is just armor and just max HP. Block is nice. That gives you a chance of just completely ignoring a hit, and I love the idea of stacking a ton of it. But I also recognize that I'd rather probably just have less damage taken overall. Okay, let's keep applying that Doom. I'm hoping that that Doom perk specifically applies to, whoop. Holy sh... That's a lot. Yeah, I think the Doom stacking is actually doing a lot of damage here. Increases damage of Doom that I apply, absolutely. Get some more knights up in here. But unless I'm mistaken, armor power. Yeah. Reduces all damage you take by a percentage. It's currently only 13%. Block is a 20% chance to block attacks. I'm actually not sure if I'm correct on this one. In retrospect, block seems to be doing way better, way more for me than armor is. But maybe I just haven't been stacking enough armor. It's 35 damage. Yeah, I'm in trouble. And I'll probably be fine, at least for a little while. But there is definitely that feeling of like, ooh, I'm not sure if I'm going to win this run. Let's see. Chance of blocking attacks increased? No. More doom. More doom. At some point I should sit down and like complete left field, sort of. Maybe it's not that left field, but I used to read a lot of Marvel comics. I kind of stopped, I think, after the Disney acquisition. I don't know why. There was no specific reason. No, I know what it is. I love comics, but there was that feeling of a lack of continuity. Or maybe too much continuity. It was weird. Let's see. Multicast for everything. Spontaneous combustion. I don't know. I think I'm going to go just for the multicast chance. Spider-Man, I think, was kind of emblematic of this, that every time Spider-Man was making it anywhere from like a relationship or a life perspective, you know, being a famous inventor or owning a corporation and whatnot, something would show up and like knock him back down all the way, so he'd be kind of reset to default Peter Parker. You know, taking photographs or whatnot. And there were things that very much were specifically like that changed the paradigm in various ways. Generally was new characters kind of being added, but many of them just disappeared after a while. But that, like, for every big dramatic thing that ever happened, so much of it just got kind of pushed back in a way, because to some degree comics and Marvel comics especially exist in a state of perpetual stasis. You constantly come up with these like great big dangers, but you can't resolve them in a complete or total way. So Marvel Snap is kind of a good example of this. It's this big important thing that has done like untold damage to the characters and even the world and universe and whatnot. But within one movie, it's been kind of undone. And I get why, because, you know, actors get older, you can't exactly leave them on the back burner for 5 years while you're trying to tell stories. Crit strikes do more damage, increase the amount of bleed you do. I think I'll probably just do the crit strikes do more damage thing. And so, like, while it would have been really cool to have this, like, fairly enduring, you know, major event that doesn't get reset for, like, 5 years, a lot of actors probably wouldn't be too keen on waiting that long, and also Disney probably wants to make as much money as they possibly can. Do we want to do? Nah, let's just do AoE. But it kind of always felt the same way with the comics too. This feeling of the endless churn, like, oh, Dr. Octopus is Peter Parker now because of mind swapping tech, and then that goes on for like, you know, 20 issues, and it's big and it's important and it's life changing, and every, you know, nothing will ever be the same. And then like 100 chapters later, it gets referenced once in a while. And maybe I just like haven't read enough comics across the board to like really see the long-term changes made by these things. Or maybe I'm just the wrong target audience for that kind of thing, but I crave the idea. Ooh. I crave the idea of like one long, well-built universe that has like a very developed beginning, middle, and an end. I guess that's why people like stuff like Wheel of Time or Game of Thrones, because that is what it was. Well, okay, maybe not Game of Thrones. It hasn't exactly retconned itself too much. There was the TV show that did different things, but the books just aren't done, so I don't even know how you judge that one. There we go. So I've killed 8 Void Lords. Holy smokes. Might actually be too much. but I'd been thinking about this prior, specifically due to the... What game? Well, I guess I was actually thinking of Twilight Princess. Whenever you cast Shadow, trigger projectile. This is what I'm looking for. I think that's my second one, too. So we actually should be firing off a fair number of chromatic bolts. Though I'm not actually sure what it looks like. I think... Oh, no, I see it. I think it just fires out really fast. But specifically for Tears of the Kingdom and Age of Calamity and some other things, they retconned a lot of even their predecessor games. And I get that Age of Calamity very much was not supposed to be canon. Some amount of me was kind of hoping it would be, just because it felt nicer. And also I liked those characters, and just having them be dead sucked. But even for Tears of the Kingdom, it retcons like a lot of exactly what happened. Because at the end of... Okay. Spoiler time for Breath of the Wild. If you haven't seen it yet, you might want to tune out for a bit. Or, like, come back in 3 minutes. Maybe even a minute. Not entirely sure. Anyway. Ooh, damage of Ray of Doom? No, more Doom. More Doom damage. So, in Breath of the Wild, specifically, it was supposed to be this, like, thing where you defeat Ganon permanently. You know, he's so angry and maddened that he kind of, I don't want to say he puts his soul on the line to become the Calamity Ganon, but very much that supposedly taking him out is permanent and is going to potentially break the endless cycle of the, you know, the reincarnation cycle between him and Link and Zelda and whatnot. I was kind of really hoping that that was actually just going to be the case. Not that I hate Ganon as a villain or Legend of Zelda, but it's one of those where, along with the Hyrule Historia situation and the branching timelines that aren't very consistent or organized, I think there's a very real appeal to a game that has been around for so long that is all tied together as kind of one specific series of events with recurring characters that grow and change over the course of the entire series. And it feels like it's kind of a wasted opportunity for some of these like big ultra franchises to not have kind of this chronology set in stone, and that, you know, resetting to the status quo every time is easier because I guess it's just easier, you know, if everything resets back to normal. Let's see. Whenever you cast a shadow skill, you have a chance of casting Earth instantly. I could do this to just keep chain triggering Chromatic Bolt, but I think I'm going to add the extra 1,300 shadow damage. Because it would be kind of cool and satisfying if specifically, you know, Skyward Sword's the beginning of the Zelda, or the like main timeline Zelda series, and then Breath of the Wild's kind of the end of it, and then, you know, what new threats will imperil Hyrule now that Ganon is gone? Or maybe just not possessed by demise, question mark, if that's even still a canon thing that happens. Because that was definitely the implication at the end of Skyward Sword. And so having it be this like endless war against this one demigod god being for who knows how long, like, that sounds really cool. Especially if it actually specifically ends, because it's like, how does that play out? Because you can't get that across in a single novel. There's a certain level of investment that is built over the course of like a 20-year series that you just cannot get otherwise. And so from my perspective, I'm always like kind of hoping that some of these longer franchises really lean into it a little bit. Pokemon, probably a bad example for this one, but one of the implications early on in like the original Pokemon game was that there was actually this like pretty substantial war that was like really bad, which is part of the reason why you don't have a whole lot of like adult men in the Kanto region. Like, they just largely don't exist. And I think it's just kind of an oversight, but the the deeper implications of that are kind of cool, because it's just like, yeah, why would people have been warring to this degree? What happened there? And then they kind of just said, actually, yeah, any kind of like deeper world building is gone. Let's just have everything be somewhat locked to a per game basis and not think about like, oh, you know, this Pokemon champion in this area, you know, quelled Kyogre. So like our area, which was just having unprecedented flooding, you know, we had all of these huge issues, but it's been solved now. But now we have to kind of deal with the aftermath of like, yeah, Kyogre and Groudon just like absolutely destroyed a significant portion of the region we're in. And because of like a character's actions in one game, it affects the, you know, the world of the next. But of course, this Pokemon, you can't really have things be that dark or dramatic, kind of. But it feels like it's kind of one of those where they could have done something more exciting. I think I was kind of in the same vein with like Sword and Shield, where they were like bringing up like ancient history and like, yeah, you know, knights fighting alongside their Pokemon, and some amount of me was just like, holy shit, that would be so cool. You know, give me some like cool history. And I guess that is actually kind of what they did with one second, I might as well use this opportunity for some water. Considering we're multicasting, or we're triggering a free chromatic bolt often, I probably should go for the multicast. Now I think about it. Doom stacking does seem kind of fun. Okay. But yeah, so like Pokemon Legends Arceus did... Arceus? I don't know. Did actually do kind of an interesting job of tying in the history of that region to the game. And so like there was some amount of that. I shouldn't besmirch it too much. But it's kind of one of those where like I actually really wish there was an extensive story told over the course of many of these games that actually has like meaning and impact. Even if it changes from game to game, you know, maybe there's kind of like a building drama over the course of 3 games, and then it switches over to kind of dumb cozy for a little bit. Maybe part of this is kind of a lasting disappointment with franchise works in general. I'm a huge fan of the Star Wars Legends books. Specifically, I really liked the X-Wing series. Like, if you can ever get your hands on them, they're kind of campy and they're kind of goofy and they're not canon anymore. But they were really fun, and they told a lot of like side stories, kind of to go along with the usual, with the. So crit strikes do more damage, sure. It told a lot of stories that complemented the main story of Star Wars in a reasonably satisfying fashion, I guess it would be the way I put it. I cannot see my mouse anymore. There it is. And then, of course, Disney comes in and says, actually, none of that's canon except for if we decide to use any of it for our new extended universe media. And, you know, I was kind of like, okay, fine, let's do some revisions. Oh, the sequel trilogy are kind of bad, but whatever. Oh, they've got resistance. I should get over here. But kind of over the course of it all, it started to become a little bit onerous. Specifically the... Boy, today's like spoiler day, but in the middle of one of their TV shows, they have like a cutaway couple of episodes, sort of, about a completely different character with very pivotal, like, plot things. And so you have to watch both shows to get the context for what happens in kind of both of them. Otherwise, it's just like, who is this guy? Why is he here? What does this mean? Or if you know, skip those pivotal cutaway episodes, it's like, wait, what happened? Why did like 2 seasons worth of development get undone in a off screen? Oh, it's not off screen, it's just in this other series. I think the implication is that most people watching, you know, the Star Wars TV shows are just gonna watch all of them, and that's not necessarily wrong. I had watched almost all of them up until recently. I think the last one I watched was whatever, was it Andor? I think it was Andor, yeah. Yeah, that was the last one I'd seen. I know like Ahsoka had come out. I tried watching the Obi-Wan one, but I just was not. I was not feeling it. And it's kind of one of those where the novels back in the day were not perfect. There was definitely some like scuffed bits, like dropping a moon on a pivotal character and some other things that like were kind of cool, but I could see why people didn't like them that much. But despite that, there was kind of this like built or like carefully constructed history over the course of like 20-30 years between writers and comic book authors, and I guess sort of George Lucas. It's not like George Lucas was actually in charge of any of it, but there was still kind of that level of like curation of this is a shared universe that has been built by many people and has like real impacts. You know, a character that dies in one book, you know, that is their canon death, and that's cool. And so I think I often find myself slightly frustrated with, oh boy, let's probably just go with this one. I often find myself slightly frustrated with a lot of like franchise media because I want it to have that like extensive built chronology and like storytelling, and oftentimes it's just like, actually this is the reboot. Oh, our reboot failed. Let's reboot it again in like 3 years once people have forgotten. Or once people have realized that, oh man, the previous reboot was actually good, but we're just going to feed you the version. Well, like sometimes it's okay. I never watched the original Voltron, and so like the more recent one was mostly good, but then they shuttered it because it wasn't making enough money, and it's just like, oh, but that actually had kind of like a long-term built-in chronology and story to it. I guess the easy example of this, for better and worse, would be like Avatar, maybe? Whereas like the original 2-3 seasons of Avatar really did a lot of like establishment and world building and obviously character building and stuff that, you know, for the Legend of Korra, they really did build upon that. Even if it wasn't always perfect, there was still kind of the feeling of like, this is a developing world that I'm kind of able to get invested into. I think I stopped watching after the first season, and that's my fault, but it was also, I was in college, and then I graduated from college, and what was I supposed to do? I didn't even know what service it was on, and I didn't really care to sub to like too many services just to watch a television show. Streaming, I think, is kind of a plague. I don't know. I don't like streaming services at all. I've kind of been moving away from them. I'll probably sub to like an anime one here and there just because at least those stories feel kind of complete and well developed. Whereas, I don't know, stuff like Netflix and whatnot. What was a show that I was really invested into? Shit, I can't even remember. Well, I mean, I guess I was talking about Voltron, and like that lasted way longer than most Netflix shows do. But there was kind of that feeling of just like, boy, it kind of sucks that this like thing I really loved got shelved, shuttered, because somebody in management said, oh, this isn't pulling enough numbers, we need to take this down. Like, I get that as somebody that does that every day for my own job. Like, I get why it's difficult to keep up with something. So like from my perspective, I want to work on those interviews and like figure out how to make them into a thing that is like a part of my usual day-to-day, and I want to provide that kind of service and content to people, just because I think it's actually like very worthwhile to listen to the creators of a thing. You know, it's one thing to play a game, but sometimes it's kind of cool to actually hear about the thoughts from the person who made the thing as well. But you know, viewership not being particularly good, it's like, okay, well, how do I specifically integrate this in? But I think it's worse a little bit when it's something like Netflix, when it's like this big corporate thing and a bunch of people have worked on this and like really developed it, built a fan base around it, and then said, oh yeah, it's not as popular as Stranger Things now, so we're gonna rush like the last 2 seasons and then shut it down, and that just feels kind of Damage modifier of Ray of Doom? Sure. I don't know if I care too deeply about Ray of Doom, but still. Like, sometimes I almost wonder if I should get, like, really... Well, I don't know. It would be interesting to try and run, like, a really extensive tabletop RPG campaign someday where it's just, like, every session is... Or every session, like, it's, like, 7 different adventures all in the same world with, like, lasting impact and whatnot. I think that would be cool. Or, like, write a novel to that extent. You know, be the change in the world that I want to see. Ow. Ooh. The game's chugging a bit. Now, I do still have 2 death protection. I prefer not to use them. If I can. See, I don't see any healing crystals either. And there's another one of those protection shrines. Unfortunately, the frame rate is just rough enough, and I'm just sleepy enough that this is making me feel kind of bug-eyed with all the special effects and enemies running around. It's cool and all. But yeah, this only happens in 3D bullet heavens too. And it's a little hard to play around. I'm sure other people actually have like better ways of describing this than I do. I have the same problem with Army of Ruin. Like, as good as that game is, it's just one of those where I literally fell asleep on camera the last time I was recording it. I think it's because, unlike a lot of games... Okay, so oftentimes when I'm playing these games, I kind of fuzz my eyes out a little bit so I can kind of perceive everything all at once as opposed to focusing on one specific area, literally missing the forest for the trees. But it's much easier for me to do that in a 2D game than a 3D one, especially with all this stuff going on, because effectively I'm just losing all capability to process what's going on because it's literally too much. And you can kind of get away with the deeper, more complex... Oh, ow. I got a health crystal and immediately squandered it. And we've still got a ton of bosses to go. Eesh. I mean, who knows? We might not actually survive to the end of this one. This might take some grinding from me. Death Vortex? Nah, let's just do 10% damage on everything. The problem with, like, being the change you want to see in the world and, like, writing the mega franchises, there's a reason why people don't generally do that, especially, like, individuals. It's that, like, making things is legitimately kind of difficult and time-consuming. And so if you want to get, like, wild with your writing and, like, really put that effort in, it's going to take you decades, and you might need to have, like, a successor to do the rest of it for you. And even then, it's no guarantee that it's actually going to be good. I often think kind of the Dune books and how Frank Herbert's son continued kind of on with the story. I have no compunction to read them, though. Like, even if they are good, which I've never heard good things about them, so I'm assuming they're not. Even though that does build that kind of, like, long... shared history and built universe. I think the point is that, like, after a certain point, too much of a good thing and it gets boring. Doesn't stop me from wanting it, though. I wonder how World of Warcraft stacks up on that one. I used to play quite a lot of it, and I was like really big on the lore, just because I played a lot of Warcraft 3 when I was a kid, and there was kind of that feeling of like, yeah, all these cool things are happening, and like World of Warcraft comes out and I'm like, whoa, the story's being continued, but it's like so much more of like a fine-tuned way, and you get to see like way more details, and you even get to like, I don't know, see the plot lines that were established in Warcraft 3 resolved through World of Warcraft, and like that's amazing, and I can't wait to play more of this. And by the end of it, I'm like, oh yay, Pandarans. I mean, actually, the Pandarans were cool. I think it was just kind of too much. And also, like, the last time I played World of Warcraft was during Legion? I think it was... No, it wasn't Legion. It was the one afterward. Shadowlands. There we go. And, like, we hit the end of the quote-unquote story. All of the major NPCs have been introduced. Mechanics, zones, whatnot. And then it's like, log in to do your daily grind. And if you do this enough, you'll unlock the next stage in the main story. And I'm like, I have instantly lost interest in this specific... I have no investment in this because it just... I'm not doing that. I don't want to grind so I can continue this story. I'll do that in an RPG if I'm having trouble, but I don't want to just be told by the game, you haven't hit your grind quota yet, therefore you can't enjoy this. That's not fun for me. There's a... Oh, we're just in full ramble mode today, but that's fine. There's a game I played a while back. Freaking ouch. 38 damage just for one random AoE. There's a game I played a while back called Recore. I don't remember who it was made by, but it was like one of those games with a surprisingly good pedigree. Like, whatever the lead designer was or the team working on it was like industry vets. But they made kind of like a weird third-person shooter collect-a-thon. And it was fun. The world was kind of neat to explore, and it had some good points. But it always felt kind of disconnected from itself, like it was a bunch of cool ideas strung together poorly. And so one of the big issues that I was running into with Recore was kind of at the end of the game, you have to go into this giant control tower to like shut it all down and save the world or something. I have kind of forgotten. It's been 8 years? 8 years. Because I played it back in 2016, which, oh boy. And it's still one of those where it's like, I kind of want to go back and finish it just because I was so close to the end. The problem is you get very close to the end and then the game's like, hey, by the way, you don't have enough grind cores. So you can't open the door to go to the last boss. Or it wasn't even the last boss, it was like somewhere up the tower to reach the last boss. Go back and find more of the MacGuffins to open the door. And instantly I just shut the game off and uninstalled it. Not necessarily because I didn't want to do it, because it just felt like the game wasn't respecting my time and was forcing me to see more of its content because it was afraid that I never would, which is true. To some degree, a design choice like that very much is there to try and push you to see as much as possible. A lot of games usually get around this by just having the game be kind of hard. What is a good example of this one? Hey, when you're playing like an RPG, what's a good one? Maybe Witcher or something. And there's oodles of side quests. You can kind of focus on the main story, but if you do, you're going to be vastly underpowered compared to kind of where you need to be. And so you go do side quests, and by doing the side quests, your character powers up, gets strong enough, and can more easily tackle the main story. And so by having the leveling curve kind of incentivize doing those side quests. Let's see. Yeah, it's probably just keep pushing calamity damage. Oof. I deserve that a little bit. By having your leveling curve incentivize side content, you can kind of force players to see the side stuff that you built just so there's a greater feeling of like playing the game. I think a lot of overworld or open world games suffer from this especially badly, just in terms of like, let's see. Oh yeah, I had to increase my block power at some point. It barely increases the block amount. But having kind of these like weird content quota systems, it can feel good if the gameplay is good, but if it's kind of a not great game that you just want to get to the end of, suddenly saying like, oh, you know what game's extra guilty of this in a bad way, is Mass Effect. You know, at least Mass Effect 2 had the, well, no, I guess you could actually move on to the end with 3, but it was, in Mass Effect 2, you can move on to the end, but you get a bad result because you weren't prepared. Mass Effect 3 tells you what the quota is before you move on to the end, and so if you're unprepared, you get a bad ending in both games. But only one of the two confronts you with the like, hey, you need to be above this %. Otherwise, that's a bad ending for you, and you're not going to like it. And so it kind of forces you to, yeah, engage with the game and go through all of that extra side content that the developers did make, like, and should be played. Some of my favorite quest lines in all of these games were made exclusively as side content that doesn't need to be done. Not even like a particularly big one, but like in early Witcher 3, there's a banshee in kind of an old town, and you have to kind of investigate what happened to her and send her off, or send her on. Like you either kill her, you either destroy her, or you give her like a proper burial and help resolve kind of the lingering pain that has kept her there. That was a rather good quest. It was one of those where it felt like there was no good resolution on it, because effectively this horrible thing had been inflicted upon this young woman, and the RPG player in me was like, I just now to go dispense ruthless justice. Where's the next leg of the quest? And then it just never came, because it was just kind of this sad reality. I am not making it anywhere. I barely do damage to the boss. I wish block power would actually tell me the percentage. Well, I guess I'll just do damage multiplier against faraway enemies. Not that that's actually particularly good for me, but the other alternatives there were not great. Yeah, the problem is I need to get close to this boss to hit him, but dude likes to hang out in fields. I actually do like 1,000,000 damage pretty easy, but even getting close to him is just a total minefield of AoEs. Well, at least the game timer pretty much matches the run. 44 minutes on a single run. Is pushing it a bit. Huh. That's an interesting note. Okay, so I wrote a thing recently. I don't think I've actually advertised it anywhere. I just put it up on my website. Yes, I have a website blog thing. I don't know, every once in a while I write about like games marketing or game design. But I've written a thing about good bullet heaven design, and one of the things that one of the conclusions I came to, and maybe I need to like write it down better just because, good bullet heaven design results in you leveling up vaguely about twice a minute. And so early Soulstone survivors, especially if you're like in these runs for a shorter period of time, how to describe it? The early game of this feels really good. You're leveling up constantly and it's very quick. I'm finding actually that it's not true in the late game. That how would I describe it? It's an arbitrary criteria I've invented to to specifically say whether or not, like, oh no, that actually did help. So it's vaguely about, like, 40% of your block rate is converted to block percentage, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of like crit rating and WoW. Like, what does that even mean? Whoa. I got cooked there. It's gonna suck, but I'm probably going to die right at the end here. And there's only so much I can do about that. But from my perspective, like, the best bullet heavens are the ones where you level vaguely about twice a minute. And the moment that stops, like, happening, once that starts slowing down, it actually feels kind of to me. And I'd never, like, really put that into words or, like, codified it as a somewhat arbitrary criteria or rule for why I feel the way I do. But now that I've kind of recognized that, like, yeah, if you stop leveling up that fast, bullet heavens often can feel kind of unsatisfying. And so I was both last run and this run, I kind of hit that certain point where I'm just like, yeah, okay, this is starting to drag on a little bit. I'd like it to be done. And I realized so much of that is just because I'm not leveling up anymore. You know, I'm not being offered fun choices. I'm just running in circles waiting for my enemies to die. And there's not anything I can do meaningfully to, like, kill them faster. There kind of is, mostly by sticking to them and more intelligently avoiding AoEs. But that's about it. I might survive to the end of this. Because we only have one boss left, and they're about to spawn, and it's Tiagro, who is not terrible. He does have 7 million HP, though. But I'd like to complete this one if I can. I do wonder a little bit if my desire to go for status effects, specifically doom stacking here, was a good idea or not. It feels like it. I certainly see a lot of doom stacks just, like, pop up on enemies as I go by, which, I mean, I would call a pretty good tell for, like, hey, this build kind of is working. Let's see. Yeah, the problem is these crystals have just about as much HP as bosses do. At least they're not as well defended. It's about 2 million, which I guess is kind of a relief, because if I can hit them for 2 million, then I should be able to hit the boss for about as much. 63 HP. I'm not even sure what hit me there. Unfortunately, due to my aforementioned, like, yeah, I'm just kind of fuzzing out here. How is this thing not dead yet? Oh, and there's another warding shrine over here. We still haven't killed this one yet. There it goes. Let's see. I'm still level 78. But the problem I'm having a little bit with the status effect damage is because it has kind of limited scalability after a certain point, and you're splitting a lot of your upgrades. So that rather than focus entirely on, like, one thing, I buffed a lot of my doom damage when maybe I should have been investing into, like, crit and raw damage or AoE or something. I guess I might not have invested in enough damage, period. Ow. At least he's easily distractible. Ooh, boy. Let's just keep my knights going. Got another one of these damage things. The boss is almost dead, so probably best thing to do would be to actually hug him, hit him a couple of times. Let that doom stack take him out. There it goes. Hoo boy. Doesn't even matter. We are donezo. Oh. Well, that gets us... I don't even know what level on the Death Knight. Damn. Hot damn. Oh, it's my highest level character by far. So let's go take a look at the skill tree. I really should rank some of these other characters up. I think it's one of those where I need to do a lot of off-camera grinding to really make this worth it. Okay. I got plenty of those. Increases your damage by a varying amount, cycling between 30% and 10% over time. Or negative 10% over time. Huh. How many more do I have? 18. Don't know if the 3 damage reduction is really worth it. That's okay. Let's see. Okay, does it say what tier I have to be at? All power-ups will have at least uncommon rarity. However, you only receive 2 when you level up. Ooh. Probably still worth it. Oh. Oh, I don't have enough skill points. I was like, how have I run out? I should have tons of minor Soulstones. And that is why. Well, anyway, I might as well mention at this point that the Soulstone Survivors big update should be out now. If it's not out now, it's out in like a day or two. But you can pick up the game beforehand if the video did come out early. I don't think it did. But anyway, it's genuinely one of the better bullet heavens out there. It's got some pretty solid infinite scaling. The visuals especially, it has some of the best special effects I've seen out of any bullet heaven so far. Just the big flashy effects and swinging and meteors crashing down and whatnot. I also really dig the fact that it doesn't have contact damage. That is a huge perk in my book. It does take a lot of grinding if you want to max everything out. Each of these quadrants is a character, sort of. I guess some of these are not yet. Each of these quadrants will be a character. Currently the inner ones, that is true. The outer ones, not so much so. I think we've still got a little ways to go. But there's just so much to this game. Because you had tons of unlocks via achievements, runes to play around with, to customize your gameplay, different weapons you can equip that give you different stat boosts, and unlock different skills for you to play around with as well. Like, there's just so much to this game. And I think that's really cool. But for now, at least, if you like this video in any way, shape, or form, leave me a like, helps more than you know. And if you want to see more rad new games every single day, then hit subscribe because I got tons to check out and show off. But for now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.